You're listening to the Podcast Engineering Show, session number 2. Oh, yeah. You know, I had my headphones turned up still, so, man, music sounds good when it's louder, doesn't it? Well, welcome, everybody, to the Podcast Engineering Show. I'm Chris Curran, and every week we bring you podcast production techniques on a silver platter. We get down and dirty, talking shop with podcast producers, engineers, and other specialists. I have a background in audio engineering in the music business, and since I entered podcasting about 4 years ago, I've noticed a huge lack of audio skills in podcasting in general, and that's where this show can help. So we talk to experts and exciting guests, and we have one today. And if you implement the best of what you learn here on the show, your podcast will sound a lot better, and you'll spend less time producing them. I do want to make sure you know that I have Barry here with me. Barry is the maintenance guy in my old building back in New Jersey. Right now I'm in Colorado Springs, but Barry, you ready? You ready for this episode?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, he's ready. By the way, this show is brought to you by two of my companies. One is Podcast Engineering School. It's a school that I started. It's online training for you wherever you are right now. We can help you launch your podcast. We can teach you audio engineering skills to enhance your sound. And we can even teach you everything you need to know to start a career as a podcast producer and engineer. And jobs are definitely out there now. I've seen them from Amazon and Panoply. The website is podcastengineeringschool.com. And our other sponsor, they're not really sponsors, they're my companies funding this show, is Fractal Recording. Fractal Recording provides podcast production of the highest quality to companies, authors, and podcast networks. That's right, I still can't announce my big new client, which is going to be an awesome podcast network. You know, some folks out there, they want a podcast show, but they don't want to record anything or edit anything. They don't want to do anything. And that's where Fractal Recording can help. So you can hear this show, and you can listen and subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn Radio and the website, like I mentioned, podcastengineeringschool.com. That's right. All the show episodes are on the school's website, because this show is obviously supporting the school. And the school is brand new, by the way. I just started it, and we don't have everything in place like that. So, by the way, if you listen to the show every week, I promise you a valuable education over time. That's pretty much a guarantee. This information just going to drip into your brain over time, and you'll just pick up skills and knowledge like crazy. So I'm happy you're here, and today we have an awesome guest. We are honored to have Luis Congdon on the show, and guess what he is? He's the podcaster's secret weapon. What does that mean, Luis? You're a weapon?
Pretty much, if you're podcasting and you want to learn how to do it in a certain way.
Right? That's awesome. That's so cool. So you guys know, well, if you know from session 1, by the way, I'm calling them sessions instead of episodes. And that's not to copy Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn calls them sessions. That's fine. And I knew he called them sessions, but this is a podcast engineering show. We do recording sessions, you know, audio engineers. We do recording sessions. So I wanted to call them sessions. I called the first one, I called episode 1, but this is session number 2. But if you listen to the first one, you'll know that we start with the speed round. So let's get right into it. I have 3 questions for you, Luis. I want to know, and you could take, 30 seconds or whatever, but what shows do you produce and engineer? What shows are you involved with?
I've been involved with quite a variety of shows. There's a show by Justin Devonshire, the Sales Champion show by Scott Lowry, Eric Lofholm's Sales Champion. It's another kind of sales champion show. The Todd Brown show, I've helped produce that. I've had my hands in quite a few different shows, not the audio engineering side, though, none of the tech side. It's more the growth, the financial end, the guest acquisition, and getting other people on shows as well.
Right. So, but I know you host. Your voice is a host on some podcasts. So which ones do you host?
I host that Lasting Love Connection podcast. It's all about relationships, love, parenting, having a healthy family and relationship. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I host the Thriving Launch Show, which is a business show. And it's all about having a thriving online business.
Cool. And what are the websites for those shows?
thrivinglaunch.com, and lastingloveconnection.com.
Okay, there you go. So, and by the way, I'll have links to both of those shows in the show notes. So you're good, man. You're playing along with the speed round. I like it. Thank you for that. Let's second
don't
question.
Call me a weapon for nothing.
He's an effective weapon. Very good. So workflow. I want to know your workflow when you, and I'm talking about for your shows that you're involved with, the Lasting Love Connection and Thriving Launch show. What's the workflow for those shows? Take me through the recording all the way through the mastering right before you upload it. How do you do it? What's the workflow?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a Scarlett, and I have two different microphones, MXL BCD mics. They're dynamic. I don't know what dynamic something microphones. I'm not like an audio tech crazy guy. I actually had BSW Audio sent me some microphones. Hio Pro sent me some microphones. And so I'm normally set up that way. I have family over today, so they're sleeping in my audio room because we have a bed in there.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm using a Blue Yeti today because that's my travel mic. It's just easy to pick up, plug and go. The setup that I have in the other room, I've got a Scarlett, I've got another little piece of equipment. So anyways, I have those mics set up to booms and to some sort of thing that connects the mics and then feeds back into the computer. I open up Logic Pro when my guest comes on. I use Skype, and I route all the audio through Skype back into Logic Pro. And we do the interview, and then afterwards I introduce my guest and do their thing. I don't really like to do my guest intro and their highlights while they're on the air. It's just I'm just using more time to talk about my guests when I'd rather have my guests talk about what's up for them. And then as well as once they get off, we do that intro, and then we also do the intro to the bonuses and everything that you're going to get out of the show. For me, it's a little easier to go, well, this is what they're going to get out of the show because I just listened to it. I was there.
Right.
And then I hand that off to my audio guy. He masters, mixes it, throws in music, throws in some music for our intro, grabs a little snippet from the start of the show and puts it or grabs a snippet from the interview to put at the very beginning. So it's kind of like the hook, like, oh, that sounds cool. I want to know more. Music comes on, stock intro to the show comes on, little commercial comes on, and then the show starts. And then somewhere in the middle or somewhere around the middle of the show, we have another little commercial inserted. Then the interview goes, and then outro gets inserted to the show. And that is our production. He sends it to me, or he just uploads it and pretty much takes care of the rest. We hand off transcripts over to someone else, and they transcribe the whole episode. And that way we can SEO juice the heck out of that 30-minute, 40-minute interview.
Right. Oh, all right. That's awesome. So you're like A+ student here in the speed round, but it's good. That's what I wanted, the whole overview, just so we can get an overview. And I'm going to ask you more about specific things as we go through the show. We'll kind of unpack some of what you just said and get into it more in detail. So the hardware setup. So you have co-hosts, but they're not live with you in the room, right? They're somewhere else. In the room. So my partner, Kamala, she's my business partner as well as life partner. We co-host the show. There's two mics, each one set up on a boom and connected to the Scarlett. Scarlett for me is preferred over a fancy mixer. Scarlett is simple to use. It's lighter. It's smaller. And, a lot of podcasters, we're not going to be mixing music. We're not going to be turning up knobs and turning dials and stuff. And the Scarlett, is just a little over $100 and it does the job. Whereas people are getting these fancy mixers. I've heard of some podcasters buying these like $500,000 mixers, and it's like $1,000 mixer. Why? You're not professionally mixing music. Are you a DJ? No, you're a podcaster, and you're not turning knobs for other people to, have their music change and the audio change and the boom and different things change and the bass change and the treble. We're podcasters. We just use our voice and we throw in a simple track for music later, and that music's already been mastered. So, I recommend something like the Scarlett, and BSW Audio has it, and it's a simple setup. Yeah, there's something to be said for simplicity. I will say that, in terms of, audio engineering, you always want to, the less distance that the signal has to travel, the better, because as the signal travels through wires and through other equipment, it does pick up some noise. So in general, right, the simpler the setup is better. And I agree with you. I have three Scarletts, and I have a one that's a little older that I use as well for my audio interfaces for the computer. Of course, I have a mixer because I'm actually producing shows for other people and doing live broadcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, the Scarlett, by the way, it's a Focusrite Scarlett, and it's an audio interface there. So what do you feel like your greatest strength is in terms of, in terms of the technical side, like the production and engineering? Because, two people sitting in the same room, I mean, you got some potential problems there with, bleed and an echoey room and everything. But I don't know. What is your strength, do you think?
It's an interesting question because, I'm not really much of an audio guy, so we have mics that just don't tend to pick up a lot of sound around the room. And so when, she's talking, my mic isn't picking it up. We're a few feet apart, which helps as well. I will tell you, though, I am getting ready to purchase some of that foam, that you put up on the wall.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's called, but I want some of that foam hanging up around my room because I'm noticing just a tiny little echo coming from the room. We have all wood floors, and so I'm probably going to put a carpet in that room and put up some of that foam around the wall. But other than that, I mean, I wish I could give you more and some fancy stuff, but that's really the answer.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a good answer. I mean, for someone like you who's not into the whole technical part of it, there's things you're doing that have a big effect on the technical part of it. For instance, how you work the microphone, how you speak into the microphone. Are you always the same distance from the microphone? Do you speak at an angle sometimes and then come back, or do you move back a foot when you're talking like this and then you come back on the mic? So working the mic, believe it or not, is incredibly helpful for the production sound of the show. Do you ever how do you do with that?
I try to always talk around the same distance to the microphone. I always put my face directly towards it. I was told that I need to purchase I actually have it. I don't normally use it, but a pop filter.
Yes.
So it would be good for me to use a pop filter so that when I'm breathing out, it isn't popping into the microphone. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but I have thought about speaking sideways into the mic, so maybe not as much of my breathing out gets kind of spewed into the mic. But I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about that. I do want to sound as best as possible as I can and minimize, any kind of discomfort for the ear, for the listener.
Right. Yeah. Speaking kind of sideways into the mic or across the front of the mic is not really recommended.
Right.
I mean, if you do it that way, if that's the way you do it and you kind of do it all the time that way, it should be fine.
I don't. Actually, yeah. I normally, right now, I'm facing directly into the mic as if I was talking to a person and as if I was speaking at the Oscars and someone handed me that mic and I'm not going to turn it sideways like I'm a gangster. I'm going to speak right into it,
Right? Yeah. Well, if you're talking into a Blue Yeti right now, how far away are you from the mic right now?
I am about a few inches away, and you could hear me breathe out right
there.
there.
Yeah, because there's no pop filter on the Blue Yeti, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of my new clients have Blue Yetis, and I've never really used one, but I'm figuring out how to best use it. The thing I like least about the Blue Yeti, which, by the way, is a good mic. I like it, actually. Has a lot of different uses, has different pickup patterns, polar patterns. Maybe I could explain what that is real quick. But the thing is, it sits on a desk, and any vibration from the desk, you hear it in the sound as this thudding. Like if you just rest your hand on the desk, you hear thud, like this really low end thing. And so I asked around on the internet, I'm like, how do you get rid of that thud? And they said, oh, just put a really thick towel underneath it or put a piece of foam underneath it. And I guess that works. I think it does work because a couple of my clients tried it, but just something you got to be careful of with the Blue Yeti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have anything under yours?
Normally I do. I'll be recording with you and then that's it. And then I'll actually my family will be up and stuff, and I'll go back into the other room for the other stuff because I like to use the boom. It's just nice. It takes up less space, and I like the mics that I'm currently using better than the Blue Yeti.
Right. Good. So yeah, I mentioned polar pattern. If you're not familiar with the polar pattern, you've probably seen cardioid or omnidirectional. Those are pickup patterns. So different microphones have different pickup patterns, and a cardioid only picks up what's in front of it. It rejects what's behind it. And there's also on the Blue Yeti, there's a figure 8 pattern, which is almost like two cardioids. So, if you were to speak into one side of the mic and someone was on the other side speaking into it, it would pick you up. It would pick you both up very well, and it would reject the sound from the sides to, if there's noise or room noise coming from the side, the mic wouldn't pick that up. So that's, one thing about microphones is you only want it to pick up what you want it to pick up. Everything else you want it to reject and not record. So that's that. So you said you got Focusrite Scarlett as your audio interface, and you got your boom stands and your mics, and you're recording into Logic Pro, you said, right?
Yeah, we used Adobe Audition. I've used Ecamm. I've used GarageBand. I've tried Audacity as well. And the main, I don't know if you want me to jump into kind of what the differences are, why I've chosen one over the other. I'll go wherever you want with that stuff.
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
So, I used Adobe Audition. First, I started with just a little plugin called Ecamm. It's a great little $29 plugin. It worked fantastic. We had fun with that at first. When I first started podcasting, I didn't know what podcasting was. I just heard about it, and someone said, hey, it'll allow you to interview other people that you really like, and it'll allow you to kind of connect with them and be able to kind of leverage that so that you can grow a business too. Because when people see you interviewing these famous people, they're going to, notice your expertise. I mean, if you can sit down with a world-renowned researcher and talk on his level with his research, then other people who are, students of this research or just want the benefits of the research, they're going to go, well, that Luis must know something because he interviewed a guy who was on Oprah 20 times. And so if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, podcasting began as just kind of a journey into starting a business and connecting with people. And somebody responded. He'd been on Oprah 19 times. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just wrote the right message for him and he said, yeah, I'll come on your show. I had no social media, no podcast to speak of, and no website. So they didn't even Google me. They just said yes. Which was awesome for me. So then I had to Google, how the heck do I record a phone call? And I found this thing called Ecamm. So I started recording with Ecamm and would take the tracks and split them and then put them into GarageBand and edit the audio inside GarageBand. GarageBand, pretty simple, easy to use program. You can, YouTube, pretty much anything that you need to know about that. You can go into the Apple store and pay them like $100, and you can get all the training that you want for a year and just go in there. You can go in there literally every single day if you wanted for an hour-long class until you've mastered the thing. So that's what I did is, I signed up for a class. I learned how to use GarageBand. That was fine. It worked fine. They don't know how to do workarounds though. Like once you start getting real technical, you're like, well, I don't want to use this Ecamm thing. I want the tracks to go directly into my computer, and I want this person's voice here, and I want my voice here, and I want music here in different tracks, and I want to be able to see it so that later I can edit it, so later I can just have it more like we want the rawest file possible. We don't want to split something and then take it and do something else with it and then do something else with it. Ideally, we have it in its rawest, purest form. And so I tried to Google and find out, how can I do that inside GarageBand? And I did not find any way that was really very good, because if you do it inside GarageBand, there's going to be a little bit of delayment, between the person's voice and your voice and all that. So then you're getting delayed audio, which for me isn't that great. I want the person's voice to be like right here, right now, and to be able to see that live. So I went into upgraded to Adobe Audition. Now Adobe Audition's an expensive program. It's something like $30 a month, or something like that, 20 or $30 a month. This isn't Ecamm, where it's $30 lifetime. This isn't GarageBand that's free. Now you're talking about, spending $500 a year or whatever that is, whatever that comes out to. So now it was a kind of a different playing field. So anyways, I signed up for Adobe Audition. It was okay, but it's a robust program. It is a really robust program. A lot of people, are using Adobe Audition, After Effects. Like, these programs are used by a lot of professionals in the audio engineering world. There's a lot of other programs that I've heard people use, but I just went to Adobe Audition because it looked like one of the programs people were using that were producing great shows. I used it for a while, and then I started having problems with it, because if you use Adobe Audition, you actually have to do a workaround so that their audio track and your audio track are separated. And that little workaround isn't consistently available, isn't consistently friendly with Adobe Audition. So the program would crash. I was having issues with it. So I was like, well, I don't want to be spending this much money for a program that doesn't work consistently. So for me, I got lucky because around that time, because I podcast and because I'm becoming very well known in this community, a guy actually reached out to me and said, I want to do all your audio editing. I'll take care of the whole thing. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's set that up. And so somebody else does all my editing. And he said, well, I want you to start using Logic Pro. It's more reliable for me. And it's a program where you can send me the files, and it's how I edit files. So it'll just be easier and more efficient for me. So we set up Logic Pro. And ever since then, I haven't looked back, and I've been glad that I don't have to pay, a monthly fee to use a program that crashes.
Right? Oh, man. Yeah, that's not good. So when you record into Logic Pro, you record what kind of resolution? Like a WAV file?
Yeah, we record everything into WAV. Most people out there recording, you want stuff into a WAV file because WAV files are just, again, back to the rawest form. It's just like food or anything else. If we can get the most raw footage, then we can edit and tweak it more and improve it.
Yeah, full resolution. That's what like a WAV file is. It's like high resolution. I always liken it to pictures, like those little small pictures when you blow them up, they're all pixely and stuff.
That's right.
But if you get a really high resolution picture, you can blow it up big. It's still very clear and awesome. So do you just record into Logic Pro? You don't do any editing or any processing at all?
No, and here's the thing too, is my audio guy, we got on a phone call, and there was a thing called something viewer, Team Viewers, a thing that you can install on your computer. They can install it on their computer, and then they can actually take over your computer. And so what we did is him and I hopped on a call. He took over my computer, and he set up everything inside Logic Pro for me, and that's it. And so I don't really do a whole lot with Logic Pro. I literally just open it up, go into my Apple settings, change the audio so that it's connected with the Scarlett and Soundflower, go into Skype, and I change the settings so that we're in 2-channel across the board. So 2-channel for the ringing, 2-channel for the speakers, 2 channels for the input and output. And then once that's done, I'm set to go, and I just hit the record. My voice, my partner's voice, and the guest voice all go on 3 different tracks, and then I pretty much just send that off to the audio guy.
Right? That's great. So now, how did you, when you got your microphones, or when you got your new microphones or whatever, you kind of set it up and you wanted to see how they sounded? Do you just record your microphone raw, and then your sound guy tweaks it up and makes it sound good, right?
Yeah, when I first, so I get companies like to send me stuff nowadays. I've had a variety of different things sent. I've probably had, I don't know, close to $3,000 or $4,000 worth of physical equipment sent to me for podcasting. And I had a Heil Pro. I had 2 Heil Pros and the booms and the cords and everything sent to me. I tried that. And I've heard the Heil, and I think it sounds amazing. For me, it didn't sound quite as good for me. It made me a little bit nasally, and I don't know why that is. Maybe I just don't have that deep, bassy voice that I've heard from some other people, or maybe I didn't turn the settings right. I don't know. But we tried the Heil, and it wasn't right for me. And another company, BSW Audio, sent me the Scarlett, sent me some little like thing that plugs into the Scarlett, so you can plug in 4 headphones, and you could plug in 4 microphones. So if I wanted to, I could have 4 people in a room and interview them. And they sent me this MXL microphone, and we tried that, and we tried the Heil. And I liked the MXL better for my particular voice. It gave me a little bit more of that kind of bassy kind of boom that I like, And I don't know. I can't completely hear my voice the way other people hear it. So when I heard it through the Heil, I was like, this sounds like almost too real. It doesn't have a little bit of that like radio sound, where it's like a little deeper. And so we went for the MXL. And I've been enjoying it. But on the cool hand side, like on the really cool side of things is now I have 2 Heil Pros, and I have a group, the Podcast Exchange group, and I'm going to be giving away these Heils to our members. So that's just cool, and I'm going to give them some headphones. I've got a lot of stuff to give away. And so on the bright side, somebody's going to receive some Heil Pros, somebody's going to receive a Scarlett and all the cords and everything that they need so that they can set up. And I know for the right person, the Heil is a fantastic mic. And for the other people, there's another microphone I've been looking at. It's called the Shure something microphone. I don't know. It's kind of a fatter microphone. The part that picks up the sound is farther back. And I've been wanting to try out that microphone. Now that's like a $400 mic. I already have a bunch of equipment, so I'm in no rush to get there. But I'd like to try it out.
I wonder if you're talking about the one that I use, the Shure SM7B.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, a lot of radio stations use it. I like it. I actually want to try the RE20 and some other things as well. And the Heil. The Heil you have, they're PR40s?
Yeah.
So the Heil PR40 is a very well-known microphone in podcasting. So you're recording in Logic Pro. I want to talk about 2 things. Because, you clearly have stated you're not like the engineer guy, and you don't want to be, really. But when you're recording into Logic Pro, you have to set the levels, right? No one's there to set the levels for you. So how do you set the recording levels in Logic Pro?
I have no idea how the levels are set. The only thing that I know is that my voice, there's a little bar that moves when I talk, and we set it so that when I'm talking, it doesn't go to the red.
Okay.
But honestly, we went into TeamViewer, and he set everything up, and I was like, I kind of want to learn this stuff. And he was like, yeah, we could sit down and I'll show you. And then when he kind of reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want me to show you? I was like, I've got YouTube videos to make. I've got 5 clients today, and I've got 4 courses running.
Yeah.
How about you just make sure that I sound good, and we'll see when we get to it. And honestly, I don't know if I ever really want to learn that stuff. I love the fact that I just show up, I record, I send it off, he does it, and I can focus on the other. I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at helping other people launch podcasts that help them make money and use the podcast as an arm of a business. And that for me is the funnest part of what I do.
Right. But the level thing, I mean, has there been a time when one of maybe the guests on Skype, maybe their level's all crazy, it's either high or too low, or you just don't worry about it? Do you hear it?
What was that question again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite get it.
Can you ever hear, like, if someone's connecting with you on Skype, different people's computers are different. Like, if their microphone is turned down on their end, when the level reaches you, it's going to be very low. Some people, they crank their level, and then it's really high and distorted when it comes to you. So do you hear those differences in between your Skype guests?
I'm not hearing too many differences. And the other thing too is, let's take the Lasting Love Connection podcast, for example. I'm interviewing a lot of doctorates and PhDs. I guess that's the same thing, but I'm interviewing a lot of researchers, PhDs, kind of academic people, and then therapists and counselors. And by the way, a therapist and a counselor and a psychologist, they're different in what they can do and their work. But essentially, most of these people, they're not going to have microphones, and some of them don't even really know how to use Skype. Like, it's not their thing, because some of the people that I've had, like, for example, I have a woman coming on the Lasting Love Connection podcast I think she's like 82 years old. She knows how to get on Skype, but she's not going to have like a microphone and a boom and levels. She's going to be like, I know how to get on Skype and I know how to plug in my headset and anything else beyond that. Yeah. But I mean, I've had guests where I hopped on a call and I was like, okay, your settings are off and let's open up Skype and let's open up your audio. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm having to like even show them how to install Skype. And so for the most part, you know, if you're running a show several times a week, you're running several shows, just try to keep it as simple as possible with your guests. You know, because a lot of these people, they're not going to spend time to know this stuff. I mean, I never really thought I would know the difference between plugging in my headphones to a computer, to a Blue Yeti, to, you know, the MXL mic, to the Heil Pro mic, to the Shure mic. Like, most people don't know that stuff, and most people will never really care.
Right. Okay. So have you ever had any major screw-ups like in recording? Like you just screwed up the recording or you didn't record something or...
Oh yeah, I've had stuff where, you know, the second interview I ever did, I did the intro with the guest there. I was using Ecamm. I didn't really know how to edit stuff very well, so I was like really nervous. That just increased my nervousness. He'd been a guest on Dr. Phil. You know, started a new field in research. A highly successful guy, really amazing guy, and I'd spent so much time really looking into who he was. And so I was nervous because I had a lot of respect for this person and their work. And I had to redo their intro 4 times while they were on the air. Oh. You know, and then I've had other times where Logic Pro crashed. Not Logic Pro, but Adobe Audition crashed while I was doing an interview. And so then I had to like start it up and kind of try to reset the guest. I've had times where, you know, I did the whole interview. It was amazing. And then afterwards, you know, I lost the file or updated my Adobe Audition. And so then I couldn't open it with that one. And I had to, you know, figure that out. I've had things where I'm on the road. I'm on the road a lot. You know, I have a business where I can travel. And so I do travel a lot. I had an interview where I went into a room and it was very echoey. I couldn't hear it on my end. They couldn't hear it. But then after the interview, I was like, wow, this sounds horrible. And trying to figure out how to take the echo, you know, again, back to the RAW form. It was good that I had the RAW form file, but there are certain things that like when you try to take something out, you're going to lose quality. You know, if there's a ding, you can go in there and you can look at these little heat waves and you can take out the ding. But that is at the loss of something else happening, right? Because if I'm talking right now and my finger snaps like this, you're going to have to figure out where's that finger snap and where's Luis's voice and how do I take that snap that also resonates with the same frequency of Luis's voice. So when you do that, then you're actually getting rid of some of the quality of my voice. And that's just, I've made pretty much every mistake in podcasting that I can think of. I'm sure there's more, you know.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, you're right about that. That's the thing about audio. Not a lot of people understand. Like, once it's recorded, if there's 2 sounds that are mixed together and recorded together, they're forever linked. If you try to change one, you change the other. It's not 2 things anymore. It's not 2 sounds. The finger snap and your voice are not 2 sounds anymore. It's 1 sound. So that happens a lot with noise reduction. Like, you know, sometimes some of my guests are in a room that has like, you know, like a refrigerator running across the room, running in the background, and you hear just this little noise. I mean, you can take that out because it's in the background and it doesn't affect the voice too much. But if it's a couple things that are loud and on the same track, then that's really rough. So, Luis, this has been great. What do you have any last words? Do you have any questions about any technical things? I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You know, you've got this cool thing, the Source Connect now. I mean, you've got great, you know, interviewing podcasters or being interviewed by podcasters is always awesome. But and everyone has kind of a different, you know, idea. I mean, you know, some of us have kind of the same theories on things, and some of us have tiny little tweaks. But this one, the Source Connect, I've never seen anyone use it before.
Yeah, I found this because it's actually, so just so the listeners understand, Skype is one way to connect over the internet and speak to each other. Skype even does video. Source Connect, it's called Source Connect now. It's a different platform, and it's actually just a straight audio connection. Skype actually does all these things to your voice. It'll degrade your voice depending on the bandwidth. You know, if the internet gets busy, Skype will, you know, make your voice make the quality of your voice smaller. It'll make it less. It'll make it sound worse, just so it can keep streaming it. And the other thing Skype does is when two people talk at the same time, Skype will actually bring down the level of one of those people. That's why you hear sometimes in Skype interviews where when two people talk at the same time, someone just drops out and then they come back real quick. So Source Connect now is actually, by the way, it's free. It's in beta. It's just a straight audio connection. There's nothing. It's just a straight high-resolution audio connection. I mean, pretty high, MP3 quality, 256K MP3 quality, which is about double standard MP3 quality. The only thing with Source Connect is that the reason Skype does all that ducking stuff and changing the level and everything is to prevent feedback. Because when people get on their laptop computer and they're just talking into their laptop and they're using their laptop speakers, if Skype didn't do that ducking stuff, there would be feedback like crazy. You wouldn't even understand the conversation. So when you use Source Connect now, you actually have to make sure, like, there can be feedback issues and you just have to take care of it, which isn't hard to do. Your guest just has to wear headphones and not have a speaker in the room playing your voice. So that's cool. I'm glad you like it. I actually talked to these Source Connect guys about telling more podcasters about it. And I was like, did you guys ever think of, offering this to podcasters? And they're like, oh, no, never thought of that. So I told them about podcast movement and stuff. But anyway, the Source Connect product comes out of a higher end product. It's like a $10,000 product where in the voiceover industry, in the big studios, they actually can do remote voiceovers at really high level, high resolution wave files, 24-bit. Yeah.
So can you connect Source Connect and then how do you connect microphones that aren't USB? Can I still use the exact same setup that I've been using? This is interesting to me, actually.
Yeah, you can use the same setup you have. When I use a computer and use Source Connect, I have my Scarlett attached to that computer. So my microphone goes into the Scarlett, goes into the computer, goes out through Source Connect, and my guest audio comes back. Yeah, so here's what you can do. Instead of using Skype, you just use Source Connect. And the only thing is you have to use it in Chrome. I think it might work in Firefox, but Chrome is probably better, safer. Mm-hmm. And you have to just tell your guests, like Luis, when I told you about the show, I sent you some instructions with the link and a passkey.
It's pretty simple, though. I mean, it was simple.
It is simple, but some people are like, oh, I don't use Chrome, or, you know the deal. Everyone, you have to deal with every guest one by one, which is fine. We got to meet them where they are and make them sound as best we can. But yeah, Source Connect now, I actually like it. So this has been great. Tell us again your two podcasts.
Definitely. My two podcasts are the Lasting Love Connection podcast, all about love and making it last and having a healthy family and being conscious and having a good life, that kind of the whole spectrum of wholesome. And then the other podcast is Thriving Launch Podcast, and it's all about having a thriving business that thrives, excels, and makes money online and offline.
Right? That's awesome. Luis Congdon, thanks for being my guest today.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right. Yeah. So, and we're going to just punch out here. We're going to be back next week. We're starting to line up a lot more guests, and I'm reaching for my my outro audio because I played this song at the end of episode 1, and I think I'm going to play it at the end of every episode. Song, by the way, the song is called Distance Between 2 Points. So again, check us out, podcastengineeringschool.com. That's where all the episodes for this show are. And I really hope you can, implement some of the things we talked about, maybe improve your sound and your setup. Until next time, sound great.
It's a lie. doesn't mean it's still the same. You're pushing